Hello, I'm Dr. Basil Considine. I'm here from the ACU Online Writing Center, and today we're going to be talking about evidence-based arguments. Now, there are many different types of arguments that you can make, and there's a time and a place. But in writing in the social sciences, in writing in healthcare, in writing in the physical sciences, there's a strong need to anchor your statements in not just evidence, but well-documented evidence, to give people a basis for believing what you're saying, the claims you're making, and to potentially be able to check your work or go and delve further into topic on their own. Now, at the Writing Center, we've got a lot of program coming up this term, but I want to make sure that you're familiar with some of the options. We are available at the Writing Center for a variety of appointments, including paper feedback, where you can schedule time, send us your draft by that scheduled time. We send you feedback within 24 hours. You can request a phone call or a Zoom appointment by sending us an email. You can also just email us questions. We get those all the time. And you can also find a complete archive of webinars such as this and information on particular courses, templates, and other things like that on the Writing Center website. Here's a couple of the new things we have coming out soon. And I want to call your attention to the program-specific guide on the webinar page. If you scroll down past the list of the webinars specific to this term, you'll find that we have this sorted catalog where you can click on the HCAD tab, and that will show you all of the HCAD courses. All right, you will also see me using the APA course paper template here, so you might want to stop and download a copy of that if you don't have it already. And with that, we're going to dive into our topic here, where we're going to explore how to cite different types of sources. We're going to look at the assignment from HCAD 201, and then we'll talk about how to take those instructions and move that into a draft where you are building out an outline. All right, now the foundation of evidence-based writing and evidence-based arguments in particular is showing why you are making a statement. And that includes both writing out your reasoning, and also it includes indicating how you know what you are referring to, which can be referring to published sources or sometimes personal and professional experience. Let's delve into the first one. So an APA-style citation has a couple elements in it. First off, who wrote it, the name of the author or authors, but just the last name. When was it published? This will be the year, and that's a way of looking and quickly seeing, okay, how current is this information? How recent is it? And sometimes, if you are making a direct quotation or leaving detailed notes for yourself, for a quotation or a paraphrase, you also include information about how the reader can find it, usually the page or paragraph number. But if it was a video, we would use what you use to track things in the video, which is to say the timestamp, 3 minutes, 42 seconds in. So let's look at some examples for that. Smith 2010, okay, Smith is the author's last name, 2010 is when it was published. If you're quoting, we'd have the two examples we have on the right, where there are page numbers included. In the second case, a page range, indicating that the quote goes across those two pages. Here's how it looks like with two authors. And if you have three or more, you just list the first author plus that wording ET space AL period et al. That's a Latin and abbreviation. It means basically and so forth. All right, so that first one, who wrote it? Well, again, one author, we just list their last name. There are two, we'll use both of the last names with the word and if it's in the body of the sentence, and if it's a parenthetical note in the middle or the end of the sentence, then we use the ampersand inside the parentheses. And if it's three or more, 3 or more, we go automatic et al. All right, next up, when was it published? So for the parenthetical citations, that's going to be the year. If there's no publication year, then we use N period period. N period D period stands for Latin phrase that basically means no date, not dated. And then how you can find it, again, we've got the page number format. We see page number and page range. Paragraph, if there are no page numbers, you can count the paragraphs and indicate, oh, that was the 5th paragraph. And if it's audio or video, you can give the timestamp or timestamp range. Now, let's look at how these come together in a journal article. Well, for the reference that goes with it, we have more information, but the citation will be as you see here. So in this case, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 authors. So if you were citing it, it would be Grady et al. 2019. But we're looking specifically at the reference here. So what do we have here? The list of authors, that's who wrote it. When it was published, that's the 2019, the year. Emotions in storybooks, a comparison of storybooks that represent ethnic and racial groups in the United States. That is the what it's called. How to find it? Oh, it's in the journal Psychology of Popular Media Culture, Volume 8, Issue 3, and the page range, and a DOI. DOI stands for Digital Object Identifier. Basically, it's a link that no matter where the journal moves to, it should always point you to the correct place to be able to get the article. Book chapter. We won't dwell on too much for this one, but it's the same format. We've got the author's name, last name, and initials. We've got the publication year, the title of the chapter itself, which is what it's called. How to find it, that's in the book edited by M.B. Oliver, A.A. Rainey, and J. Bryant, called Need Effects, Advances in Theory and Research. And the rest is just information of, oh, it's a 4th edition, here's the page range for the chapter, and there's the name of the publisher, which is Routledge. Videos follow the same thing. They have a little bit more information sometimes, and that gets put into the reference list. But if you don't normally include, for example, the month and year in the parenthetical citation, because the parenthetical citation is really something pointing you to go to the references if you want to get more information, so that reference section information doesn't clutter up the paragraphs. And then if you want to see more than just what the references did, like consult the original source, well, that's what you use the reference information to go look up and get a copy of the book or the journal article or what have you. Now, if you are taking a YouTube video that shows you the month and the day in addition to the year, so you'd include that, but not all platforms do. If you have a video that is posted as a TED Talk on the TED Talk website, rather than on YouTube and embedded there, but on their own platform, then they only include the year and the month. So you wouldn't include the day because you haven't been given the day. All right, so the next step is to be able to integrate your observations on the job, your perhaps key personal observations that provide some insight, to integrate this in a larger discussion which is grounded not just in the published literature, but using your experiences to expand what the literature can do by informing or showing how something has been applied in another context, relaying concerns or issues, whatever those might be. You can use those in APA style. You don't want them to be the only source that you have. You don't want them to be the main source usually, but something to help you expand upon what is in the literature, what is published already, certainly. Now, it's helpful to keep that balance in mind, that when you are writing about it, you can make reference to the literature. For example, author date. Let's say Smith 2019 cited significant liability insurance savings as a reason for hiring 40 ombudspersons. This aligns with my 15 years working in this field, in which we frequently saw I write customers decide to cause trouble and harass our staff, for example. So the first part is saying, okay, here's what the literature said to do, and then here's how that is reinforced by the personal and professional experience that we're citing. Now, just keep in mind that that doesn't use formal parenthetical citations. It isn't an author date because you're referring to yourself, and if the reader wants more information on you, well, they can look at your cover page and see your full name and go from there. All right, we're going to dive right into HCAD 201's Week 1 assignment, which is the aim of the healthcare system. And the purpose of the assignment is to evaluate some key aspects of the healthcare system. And there's an instruction to read Chapter 1 and to write a 550 word essay. So usually the first question I get is, okay, how long is 500 words? That would be about 2 double-spaced pages in APA style. So 750 is around 3 double-spaced pages in APA style with 12-point Times New Roman font. So you've got some things to do, not a ton of space to do it, but a very manageable task. 2 to 3 pages on this topic. And, the assignment instructions include an outline. Describe the aim of the healthcare system, so we'll need to make sure which healthcare system we're talking about. Select one of the general characteristics that distinguish the U.S. healthcare system, and explain how cost, equitable access, or quality of care could be used to assess this characteristic. Something that's helpful to consider here is that the second bullet is more or less saying, hey, you should be using your textbook here. So we need to make sure that gets cited. And, all right, based on your experiences, professional or personal, do you think the healthcare system today addresses cost, quality, and access? Why or why not? And then a note to include some references to the different sources that you end up citing. So it's not saying you need to cite all the readings and all the videos, but whichever ones you do, you should have references for them. And a general note to format according to APA guidelines. All right. And it's always a good idea to take a look at the rubric, and we see that this reiterates the things seen in the instructions. It's saying, you should be doing these things, and gives us a disposition of the points. So we can see that 3/4 of the points are associated with, have you met these content requirements? To describe the aim of the healthcare system, explains how to assess different characteristics of it, and evaluate whether it correctly addresses cost, quality, and access. All right. So at this point, we're going to go ahead and grab a copy of the APA course paper template. As I'm doing that, I'll just say, go ahead and review these notes here, because you always want to be answering each prompt directly, making sure that you're clearly answering the right thing by using the language from the prompts itself. Use word choices consistently to refer to the same thing, and make sure that you have used the instructions to come up with an idea of roughly how long this would be. In this case, 3 sections and 2 to 3 pages. Well, that gives us an idea that probably each section is going to be 1 to 2 paragraphs. And interpret suggestions, the instructions, the requirements, always a good one, because that will save you working on stuff that might otherwise be rejected as not suitable for that class. So we're going to go ahead and grab a copy of the APA course paper template, and we'll go from there. So I have here a copy of the APA course paper template, and you can fill in this information here. We're going to go ahead and take out this placeholder, and we're going to start pasting in elements from the assignment instructions. Because you know that you're going to have to do it eventually, there's a reminder that it's expected you will meet the APA requirements, which includes citing the sources, as well as content requirements that you provide responses to the prompts. So, great. Let's take a look at those prompts as soon as we clear out this section. Now we have here the instructions here with use the below outline when writing your paper. All right, well, that's a very clear instruction. Go ahead and use that. So let's do that. Now, I always like to make the text match the formatting of what I'm working in. It just looks more consistent and helps solve some problems later. So you can use this checkbox and use match destination formatting. It'll do things like it'll adjust the font size and the font choice to match the rest of the writing around it. And we see, okay, you can go in and start adding notes like, in this case, it's specify which healthcare system, because you could be talking about the United States, you could be talking about a particular state. What the government does for healthcare can be very different in, say, Minnesota versus in Florida or Mississippi. And so let's be specific. Now, you might decide that you want to go in a different direction. Say, oh, well, they didn't specify one I'm going to pick. So decide I want to do Veterans Affairs. Now, this is where we want to be particular. Are you answering this prompt interpreting healthcare system referring to like a countrywide system, or in Canada, province-wide? Or is it referring to something that's more circumspect, like, oh, this hospital network, for example? All right, so we have a prompt to select one of the characteristics. So now when you're outlining, you can write full sentences, but most of the time when you're starting out, you'll just want to write a list of the things that you need to discuss. In this case, we know the characteristic is that, and that it's supposed to be assessed through the lens of So you can see that using this as an outline for your paper gives you a good idea of how to structure it, because it progresses naturally from one area to another. Okay, so that's where we're going to be starting with saying, all right, here's the instructions say to lay this out, to follow this outline. But let's look at what else is supposed to go in there. So I'm looking here at the week 1 readings and resources that go into this module. And so let's say that you decided you are going to be citing information in this text here. Well, the first thing we need to do is find out some more information about the book, which doesn't have to be listed here. There are ways we can find it. Starting with, if we just take this and we search for the title in quotes, and we see, oh, yes, Stephen L. Wagner. Wagner, just going to depend on the history of the family and when they moved, in this case, to the United States. All right, so we have this book by Dr. Wagner, and in this case, the book, we can see here from this note here that it was published in June 2020. There are other places where you can look this up if you can't find it, including contacting our librarians for assistance. But in this case, we're going to go ahead and look at this and see, okay, it is, from the looks of it, there's not a earlier edition of it. It's printed by the Health Administration Press. Got the title there. We see 2020. Okay, I can work with that. So first thing here in our references list, let's make an entry, Wagner, and then that is S period L period, because we abbreviate the first and middle names as initials. 2020 is the year. And we're going to turn that to lowercase using this handy lowercase tool. So that's the title of the textbook. And it appears to be written just by that one author. We can see from this some information about the publisher, but in this case we can see, okay, Health Administration Press. So this looks like it's a single author book, so we just need to make sure that proper nouns are capitalized here, and the rest is just in sentence case. If we're going to cite that, which we can see we should be discussing the characteristic, so that should be referring to Wagner or Wagner, depending on, again, the Americanization or Anglicization. See, okay, we need the author, the page number, if we're quoting, but otherwise just the author's last name and the page number. Sorry, meant the author's last name and then the publication year. Okay, so what about this here? Based on your experiences, do you think that it does or doesn't? Well, you want to start out with a direct answer to this part here. You either do or you don't, or you're unclear. And you're telling the reader will change how they interpret or filter the rest of the information that you provide. Now, as mentioned in the slides earlier, you're not actually going to be including a parenthetical citation here. You're just going to be referring to your personal and professional experience and showing why that is relevant by providing details on, and my 15 years of experience in the NICU, for example. All right, so looking at the text here, we've also have some videos here. Now, videos can be interesting sometimes if they're not on a general public platform. But let's start with this one here. Let's say that we're going to cite this one here. Well, we have the same basic functions that you saw earlier. So if we back up a little bit, look at the guidelines for citing a TED Talk. We've got who wrote it, when was it published, what's it called, little clarifying thing that's a video, publisher was TED Conferences, and there's a link to find it. Okay, pretty straightforward. So what about this TED Talk video that we're looking at? Well, we've got this link up here. How Do We Call Medicine is the title. Adil Gawande is the speaker. It's on the TED platform. Okay, well, let's head down to our references and add this. Now, these are sorted alphabetically by the first author's last name. In this case, it's going to be Gawande. And if we look at this, we see that it was published in March 2012. So 2012 March. What's it called? That's How Do We Heal Medicine. Note that it ends with a question mark because it is asking that question. And that question serves in the same role as a period would here in ending this block of text. All right, so this is a video. And what else will we need? Well, it is a TED Talk. And anything else? Let's take a look at our slides. So TED conferences in this case, is listed as the publisher there. Well, let's take a look and see what we have. So TED 2012. Okay. And then you can include a link right to this. All right, so we got those. Let's take a look at the remaining category of video. So I used to teach at the Boston Medical Center, so I'd like to take James Moses' video here. First thing I want to do is find out, okay, it's on YouTube. Great. So we will cite it the same way that we would a YouTube video. As you can see here, the name of the channel, date including the year, month, and day, title of the video itself, and note that it's a video, the platform, that's YouTube, and the link there. Okay, great. So looking at this here, this is our name of the channel. So it's going to go up here, IHI, Open School. (2015). Then the title of this will be James Moses' Why Did You Get Into Healthcare? Looking at our slides there, we see that the video title is supposed to be in italics. And we don't just include the year, we also include the month and the day. In this case, that's going to be 2015, May 8th. Then we need the how do we find it, and that's going to be that URL. There you go. Now, if you're going to be citing this, now that looks like something that probably talking about this. You could have something that read like this. And you can refer to speaker. And then to identify what you're referring to, we need the author date part here. So that's going to be IHI Open School. The year is 2015. So we see from looking down here that there's a lot more information that goes into that parenthetical citation. But the thing is, this works together. We have the formal citation here, which keys the reference list. The reference list gives you the rest of the information to find what you need to do. All right, well, I hope that was helpful. Let us now wrap things up and say you're more than welcome to contact us at the Writing Center. And you can contact us by sending us an email, scheduling an appointment through a website, or going to the Online Writing Center. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.